Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you very much for joining me here. I hope you're having an amazing day. We're taking another look here at Bitcoin, of course, seeing what's going on with the big dog and helping you understand the best practice and big picture for scenarios like this. What do we do when the price keeps jumping up and down in this range? So we're going to figure that out and much more. We're going to look at Bitcoin dominance, traditional markets, and kind of just help get a big perspective outlook on what's going on. All right, so if you are new to the channel, just know I'm not a financial advisor, right? I love teaching people to trade. Truly hope you can learn something here today, and my goal is to help you become a better trader. Right? That's simply put, I've been trading for over 17 years. This is my full-time job, and I've got a trading signals group where I send out signals for every trade that I take, an amazing community, and of course a university as well to teach you everything that I know to help you survive the market, right? So you can get a lot of information out of these ones, but I have more specific details that are very helpful in the big picture. So be sure to check that out. And also, of course, if you want to register for that, cryptocash.tech is a website, link in the description below. Also, furthermore, just to kind of highlight here some of the successes recently. I touched on this previously with my other videos, but generally speaking, we're looking at 45% for Bitcoin. We took that profit within 1 day and 1 hour, and that was yesterday. And then, of course, prior to that, we took more profit from Bitcoin as well, 57% in 4 days, and then, of course, Ethereum 3 days for 44%. So again, some pretty healthy profits in the overall sense of things. Things are looking pretty darn good. Because again, you can still make plenty of money in whatever kind of market there is, right? You don't just buy low and sell high. There's a lot of different strategies involved. And those are things I like to help you with. So of course, check that out. Very last thing, of course, is equally as important to have a good exchange at your back when you're doing these things. So, BitGet's awesome. They allow for you to have a pretty significant transfer bonus. In other words, you transfer funds over and use their exchange, they'll give you a pretty healthy amount. I was able to almost max out my benefit there by transferring over a large amount of my portfolio. Up until November 30th is the time in which you have to register. You have to use the link in the description below for that, but if so, you'll benefit there greatly. And I can just tell you, their level 2 data is fantastic. The application is phenomenal. I think they're like 4.9 out of 5 stars. They are really good. So check them out in your own time. So here's the big picture for Bitcoin. I think we've already covered this, so if you saw yesterday's video, this might be a slight repeat, but obviously we have this descending trend we haven't broken above through yet, but it does feel like it really wants to push through that. And now we're not quite there, but of course, big picture, you can kind of see that there's a lot of consolidation at this area here. It's retesting more frequently, and the more often you retest a trend line, the more likely it is to break. So we can assume that in the near future, another couple of tests of this resistance level will probably go ahead and continue to push the price action further up. Okay, so a lot of different schools of thought there, but to me, we're still bearish, and I hope that you can kind of keep that in your mind. That the bulls are not in control at all. The bears are absolutely taking their profits, continuing to put their price action down. The main reason why that is, though, is because again, traditional markets are struggling. So take a look at Nasdaq. And of course S&P, they're both down by 2.5%. That may not seem like a lot because we're so desensitized to crypto volatility, but if you are not familiar, traditional markets being adjusted by over 1% is a huge deal. And we're seeing that today as well. So even though yesterday was a nice little green day, we're seeing a red day here today. And one thing that's kind of nice about this, though, is that traditional markets are still going down, whereas Bitcoin is, for the most part, going sideways, right? So to me, that's a very positive sign that really helps us understand that Bitcoin is, decoupling itself from the traditional markets, or more specifically, or we've hit our lowest point in which the price was willing to go, and that there's a lot of buying pressure at the 18 to 19,000 range. That's the more likely candidate there. To me personally, I feel like we are absolutely very, very close to the bottom. There is still potential for lower. We got to recognize that. If this trend line continues lower, that's going to happen. But if we break above this trend line, consolidate, and have a good, healthy, just say a full week's worth of trading above that level, I think we'd probably be in pretty darn good shape to assume that the downtrend is over. Okay, so again, just keep this in mind. Obviously, traditional markets just keep getting hit by 3 or 4% per day, then Bitcoin will eventually beat it out. The traditional markets have to do decent for Bitcoin to do well, but on the same accord, Bitcoin's done a lot better than it should have, considering the overall circumstances. All right. Last thing to note as well is that Bitcoin dominance is essentially just kind of drawing dead and not really doing a whole heck of a lot, which is pretty standard right now, just kind of that little calm before the storm, if you will. So this happens quite frequently. Okay, so that's kind of where we're at there for the overall summarization. When it comes to the price action, we can see, of course, RSI still working as a resistance. Had we closed just say in the range of 19,800 or higher, which I was hoping for, then we would be probably right at that 50 range and potentially be able to continue higher. For right now, that's working as a resistance level. We can see once again 19,800, strong resistance level yesterday. 2 days in a row it's gotten rejected at that point. Keep this in mind though. There's a good chance you continue to retest that level. The likelihood of it breaking is higher. So I do personally feel right now that a long position would be much more viable than a short position with Bitcoin. That's just kind of my speculation. And if you take a look at the convergence here on the MACD, this is telling us we have the momentum to the upside, and that should likely continue. Let's take a quick peek at TD sequential. I don't think we're at anything substantial. We obviously, just to clarify, we came all the way down to a 9, and the price has been slowly etching itself up. So we're at a 2 right now, hypothetically 7 more days of bullish activity. Again, that's strictly hypothetical. There's no guarantees on that, but TD sequential has a tendency of working itself up to a 9 and becoming exhausted and turning itself around. So why don't we take a quick look at that here on the 4 hour and just clarify. Again, very choppy behavior. Price action comes up to a 7, comes all the way down, works itself out to a 5. In other words, we're looking at what 28 hours of continuation up here, and then 20 hours down, and then we go with 16 hours up, 16 hours down. So like it's consistently being inconsistent right now, and it's not easy to kind of bank on that, right? So to me, it's not a tremendous amount of confirmation, you could say, that's really helpful. One thing that is helpful though is to see this doji candle here. Obviously on the smaller time frames you can see it a little better, but this one is essentially closing as a dragonfly doji, really just implying that the price action is more likely to increase from here. Because in this 4 hour period, the price came all the way down here and came right back up to close close to its open. Even though it's below its open, obviously it's still not super positive. That's still helpful in understanding that this area right here at about 19,200 is a point of contention. And of course, 18,800 right back here is another support level too. So we should pull that out here a little bit further and kind of just make sure that we pay attention to that level. I think 18,800 is an awesome place. We've been able to buy the dip twice on 18,800 and take some healthy profits. That's some of the profits I shared with you earlier. Again, so we get another bounce off 18,800. That's probably a good long position. Not to say that 19,000 isn't either though, because at this point, it does look like the price action wants to kind of consolidate at that area. I would expect it to go lower first, but on the same accord, we are making higher lows at this point, and this is a positive. So if we can continue to maintain that, the likelihood of a breakout to the upside is higher. Okay. So again, mostly good stuff there in that sense. The hourly doesn't look fantastic, but keep in mind, again, being fairly range bound, the cloud will give us a lot of false positives. Bottom line is that lagging spans intersect with the price action, conversion lines below the baseline, and the price action has almost broken the lower lead. It technically did, but there's no confirmation there yet. So we want to see the price action go sideways for a little bit longer before we take entry. I would say another 12 hours would put us in a prime position if the price goes sideways from here to be able to take a long position, but it wouldn't be a terrible idea to possibly get in a little early. To me personally, this looks like has a decent opportunity to continue higher. It just feels like it's going to go up versus go down in the overall sense of things, especially how well it's been able to maintain itself, contrary to traditional markets. Speaking of traditional markets, let's go ahead and just do a quick comparison. We're looking at the 1 hour, and then we go ahead and peek over at the NASDAQ, and we can see it opened red. Of course, that's when Bitcoin had sold off pretty significantly, and it recovered. And traditional markets have recovered a little bit, even though they're still red on the day. So again, that's not fantastic by any stretch, but the fact of the matter is that Bitcoin is holding and maintaining higher lows, where these traditional markets can't say that. They're still making lower lows. So to me, that's a very positive sign, that inverse pairing, so to speak, right? Where Bitcoin's going up, traditional markets are going down, but it's still absolutely affected by the open because the pre-market hours essentially sold off and then opened red, right? So if you've ever studied or just used pre-market and post-market hours for trading, you'd recognize that, but it's something I don't miss because you have to wake up at 6 in the morning every single day and make sure to catch the market before it takes off. And that's the beautiful thing about cryptocurrency. You can do it anytime you want. But you got to keep in mind there are more volatile hours in cryptocurrency, which is typical, standard 8 to 5 Monday through Friday, just kind of the regular business hours, you could say. Anyways, so enough about that. The summarization here is that we have, I would say, more positive than negative, more likelihood of upside than downside, and generally speaking, I would feel comfortable taking a long position closer to 18,800 and maybe 19,000. Okay, so again, those have been some good pivot points we've seen in the past. And at this point, we are still making higher lows. I think that's a good sign. And we're not overexhausted to any direction. But for the most part, we do have more positive than negative. So we got like a 60-40 split here. Right, so again, it's not strong, but it is absolutely something that's relevant. And yeah, you can see the price kind of coming down a little bit here too as well, based on traditional markets coming down also, because these guys are struggling a little bit. We can see that. All right, so hopefully you found benefit here. Of course, if you did, comment below. Please follow me on social media. Greatly appreciate that. I'm going to be sending out more charts and more updates to kind of keep you abreast on everything as well. Make sure that you are familiar with generally everything that I'm doing consistently in that regard. So check that out in your own time, of course. Everything is in the description below, and I look forward to working with you. Hope you have a great rest of your day. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Take care.